Hey there, and welcome to the userexperience.org podcast, where I chat with the people creating the products that shape the world. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
I'm ready.
All right. Well, hey there, and welcome back to the userexperience.org podcast, where I interview people about their thoughts and work in the field of user experience, which is about making products easy and enjoyable to use. So today on the show, we have Greg.
Hello. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, I'm just going to quickly read out your bio, and if there's anything you'd like me to add, let me know. It's quite a chunk. So Greg is a designer at Sumo Logic, and he's spearheading special AI, machine learning, and UX initiatives for a bunch of different things they do there. He has more than 30 AI projects on his portfolio, and I think he's written 5, if not 6, books on it. And his last one, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is UX for AI.
Right.
Is that correct? Oh,
yep,
wow.
that's the one.
Amazing.
That's number 6. Yep.
Brilliant. So yeah, I'll be posting a link to that as well for anyone who wants to pick it up while it's still hot. You also founded UX4AI.com. Super cool. Also a very nice domain name. Congrats on scoring that one.
Takes one to know one.
Exactly. And yeah, you're currently, if I'm not mistaken, also leading your own consultancy company called Design Caffeine. I like the name.
Yeah, that's yeah, it's more of a coaching setup now because I work full time at Sumo.
Okay, I see. Yeah, and you've done also a bunch of keynotes and workshops, and you have a lot of patents as well, which is cool. And you've been on episodes of different podcasts, including user testing as well. So that's a mouthful, but very impressive and very interesting. And I'm sure that I have a bunch of questions that you have answers to. So yeah, welcome.
I'll do my best, Oliver. Thanks for having me, and thanks for that warm intro. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I hope I didn't like hype it up too much or set the bar too high, but
I don't know. We'll find out, right?
We'll find out. Nice, cool. But yeah, first thing I'd like you to do is if you could just briefly introduce yourself. I know I already have, but in your own words, and then I guess how it all started.
Sure. Yeah, I was a nerd and the only child growing up. So since the time I remember, I was fascinated by robots and Isaac Asimov and Ray Bradbury, Sheckley, all those early science fiction writers from the 60s. It really inspired me to look into artificial intelligence, and I was always excited about robotics and AI, and just nothing really was interesting for a while. But I did find some very interesting projects to work on at GE, oil and gas, and Cisco, and a bunch of other places, a bunch of little startups. During my consulting time, been a very interesting ride. I learned a lot what to do and a lot what not to do because, according to Gartner, 85% of AI projects fail. And that is a very accurate figure. And I like to think I have a slightly better betting average. But again, a lot of screw ups I found are not actually technology driven, but are actually UX driven. And UX can really make an impact in improving project success and keeping it on track and really creating that return on investment and user delight, really, and user benefit. So I am very excited to be working at Sumo on a lot of AI projects, and we should have a few very interesting things coming out. We already have a Copilot that is live, so you can try that out, and a lot more to come. So, that's me in a nutshell, if you will. My new book is available. It's UX for AI, and it's still number 1 new release in data modeling and design on Amazon.com. So if you want to pick up a copy, it's definitely be great. Check it out. If you want to just DM me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to send you a free chapter, which I find to be one of the most valuable chapters, which is one on digital twins. So very happy to send you that freebie. Just ping me and DM me on LinkedIn. I'll send it on your way.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah. So quick question. So it doesn't, so it's off of my mind, but I'm hearing different accents at the same time for some reason. What's going on?
Yeah. Same for you. I have to say, okay, since you asked me first, I'll go first. I'm originally from Ukraine.
Okay.
And it's been quite a few years since then, but put a few tequilas in me and it definitely comes out.
Yeah.
And hey, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. What about you, Oliver?
Yeah, so I figured it was somewhere from there, like Eastern Europe. Based on my accent, what would you guess right now?
Oh my gosh, you're making me guess. You didn't have to guess mine. It's no
Yeah.
fair. No fair. You have to share. Come on.
Okay. So I was actually born in Boston, but then when I was 6 months old, me and my family, we moved to Paris, or at least the outskirts of Paris. So I grew up speaking French and Dutch. My parents are both Dutch. And yeah, when I was 6 years old, we went to Indiana, back to the States. And then when I was 10, we went to Barcelona until I was 18. And then I went to the Netherlands to study economics. And that's, I guess, where I picked up more of my Dutch accent as well. Yeah, I moved to Boston again in January for an exchange program as part of my master's degree in AI. And then moved to San Francisco, yeah, last week, Tuesday. So
Quite a journey. That is amazing. I was going to say Netherlands, but I wasn't going to go out somewhere in Western Europe. So it did
yeah,
sound like Germany to me. So I was like, yeah, it's one of these other countries. Yeah, I've actually been very very fortunate to travel for work, and I'm a sucker for free travel. So I got to visit Amsterdam a couple of times and went to Eindhoven and the tech park there. It's really quite impressive, the level of tech and the level of ideation that is happening. I think it's being held back a bit with certain regulations that Europe has introduced with LLMs. But who knows, that might actually be a good thing to go a little bit slower in many ways. But time will tell. I guess we're definitely moving fast and building things, but it could be creating Deus Ex Machina, right? And the AGI God from the machine that may doom us all at the same time. So
yeah,
we'll see. Yeah,
we'll see.
I'm a big fan of thinking before you leap, but also not waiting till we have every piece of available information. I think that kind of describes the
It's a
UX
tricky
approach.
balance. Yeah.
Exactly, very
Yeah.
much so.
Yeah. So I'd love to dive into that as well. I actually used to co-host and organize an AI safety group in the Netherlands. But before we do that, I just wanted to, so I've written that down to bookmark it. Before we do that, if we could take a step back and then look at Greg, when he was maybe 10, 12 years old,
My
if you
gosh.
like close your eyes a little bit and then just imagine what were you thinking back then? You mentioned that you were into sci-fi and stuff. Yeah. In terms of like what you wanted to do with your life, maybe you didn't know, but what was that like for you back then?
My gosh, yeah, I don't have to actually close my eyes. It's I still feel like I'm 12 after after all these years.
Nice.
My earliest memories of design is when I would visit my mother's design shop, which was kind of like the old IBM 360s, punch cards everywhere. Because that was the only way to really communicate with machines. Can you guys imagine that? This is crazy, right?
That's
This is
crazy.
back in Soviet Union. So these little cards. They look like 3x5 cards, but a little bit bigger. So
No,
just imagine these kind of like that size with a corner missing,
like
right?
this size a little bit.
And then a little bit like that. Well, that's actually afterwards. That's so with the corner was punched out like that, and then on it was a full alphabet, every single ASCII character
Oh
that
wow.
was used. And then there was a special machine where you typed in a character, and every card has one character in it punched out, literally a little hole punched out. And then it would the light would shine through onto a sensor, and it would understand that was an A, and that's number one, that's zero. So if you wanted to type in reasonably sized program, you actually needed thousands of these cards. And if you drop these, you're screwed, right? Because you just messed up your whole program. It
I
was
heard that
quite interesting.
I heard that there's some like places or tools or systems out there that still use punch cards
Oh, that boggles the mind.
because it's just when you have enterprise systems that are so embedded, it's really hard to switch out. And I've heard crazy things.
I would imagine somebody created some sort of an adapter for it. But yeah, it had, these big spinning wheels and everything. So that's, I spend many, many hours listening to the tape running back and forth. Once you got the punch card, you got it in, you stored on tape, and the output was stored in these giant sort of discs that were like this big, almost like a big pot,
Wow.
probably the size of the diskette right there that you just showed. And then diskettes came, and that was a big deal. That was after my very first computer had just a regular audio tape style drive, and it had no screen, and it just had buttons, and the tape would
Wow.
spin, and that was kind of it, and it would print out on the dot matrix printer. So it was very very interesting. Yeah.
What was your
Story.
what was your mental model then like of that
Uh,
computer? Like if you don't have a screen, then you have to have some sort of mental model of what's going on inside the computer, right?
Honestly, I was a bit too small to have a mental model of that. I knew it was storing things on tape because I was familiar with tape from tape recorders. That was kind of the medium back then. This giant spools of magnetic tape. But what I was doing mainly as a 12-year-old boy is drawing pictures using the CAD machines, with these big, it's like a big triangle, big angle like that. And you can rotate the angle and you can just use that to draw. It's a big drafting table. So it's a vertical table. You stand next to it and you draft on giant sheets of paper, some sort of blueprint. Very, very old school drawing, but I was fascinated by large displays and drew a lot of space battles and things like that. So the only child, total nerd, right? So I still love doing that. So it's still really, really fun. Like I do a ton of drawing still. And I think that's where I kind of got my whole got that started. I wish I could show you stuff, but I'm literally flipping through every page has got something drawn on it, some kind of drawing, a graph. I love the idea of interspersing drawings with text and other notes, right? Because sometimes you need one or the other. And it's kind of how in my experience, a designer, it's a really good practice to do that just in general. Not just words and not just pictures, but kind of two together is, I think, a sweet spot for getting stuff done. That's my experience. And that's where I would credit sitting in this room with these giant spinning machines and sounds of the punch cards and the smell of paper and
Wow. Do you miss it?
burnt plastic. There you have it.
Do you miss that?
Nah, this is more fun. Dude, like the young people these days, they don't know how good they have it. This is crazy. I'm going to sound like an old fart here, but let me tell you, this is dream come true right now. You can code anything. Like it is
I mean,
incredible.
I had this dream. I was
So
like,
amazing.
I was 14, 15. I was like, man, I wish I could have access to someone that could just answer all these debugging questions because I'm just getting stuck at really simple things and I have so many ideas. So yeah, let's dive into that soon as well, vibe coding and everything.
For sure.
But yeah, so you were a young guy, 12 years old in that room. At some point, you had to start earning money. But before that, I guess you went to college. What was that like for you? I saw you studied here in the States, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Um,
yep. I
how
had
did that
the
go?
opportunity to go get a bachelor's in chemistry and biochem, and got a master's in computer information systems. Now, I think my love for research and being sort of close to customers is really came from that time, having had that opportunity to really understand that it doesn't matter what you think reaction should be or what the textbook or scientific papers say the reaction is. There's an old saying from back from the Greek days. Here is the competition, jump here. So in other words, what this is referring to is this boastful athlete who said, yeah, I jumped really high, in this other city and I won all these awards in this other city. And somebody just basically in very laconic Greek and Spartan way says, here's the jumping thing. Go jump right here. Right. So it doesn't matter what people tell you it should be. It is what it is. You got to
Yep.
just go and try it. And that, as Jacob Nielsen says, it's like user experience research is like looking at Saturn with a telescope. If you look at the Saturn, you're going to see the rings, and there's no denying that the rings are there, right? Like you just see it and then you can't unsee it. Like they're there no matter what, right? So that, I think that's what I kind of learned doing research in chemistry, because no matter what you had some conceptual mental model of how the reaction was supposed to go, it either went or it didn't. And that was the reality. And some reactions that were very tricky, they would work on, say, 100 milligrams, and they would not work on 300 milligrams, no matter what you did. And scaling up from there was out of the question. So whatever it was, moisture in the air or something to do with the flask and surface area or whatever it is. The point was that was the reality on the ground. So instead of making one 300 milligram reaction, you just made 3 100 milligram reactions side by side. And that's how you got to the amount that you needed for your study. The point is, you found ways to be scrappy, you found ways to solve it, but the reality of research was the actual God-given reality of life. So without research, it was just armchair philosophy. There was no work to be done, right? The research is the work, right? The R&D. So when I hear people like designers or researchers that say they haven't talked to a customer in forever, or I hear things like, well, why do we need more research? Don't we have enough research? It boggles my mind. I break out in hives, literally. I freaking lose it. I literally lose my poop because I'm like, what else is there? Like, especially with the age of AI, right? You don't know all the answers. There's no established pattern. You absolutely need to go and research it. And not only do you need to research it with mockups, forget the mockups. It's not that important anymore what it looks like. It's important what it cooks like, which means what is the content? How much content? Is the content correct? What is the next step? Is the analysis right? Is there enough analysis? Is it restating correctly? Is it understanding that, is there enough banter? Is it understanding the concept of the question? And can it then follow up with additional things? All of that is critical, especially in the SaaS environment. And that's where I think UX industry as a whole sort of comes up short, which is we create a mock-up, we throw lorem ipsum in there and say, yep, there you go. There's your chatbot. And you're like, that's not even that important. You can look at any chat application or any Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, right? And just go, okay, they all Perplexity, right? They all kind of look really similar. Okay, a few buttons here and there is not really all that important. What's important is what it actually cooks like. So the content is the steak and the UI is like the plate. So UI, it almost doesn't matter. You can make it. I spoke with customers over and over again that tell me, it can be just pink unicorns written in Comic Sans as long as it's right. I don't care. And we all know not to do that already, right? We kind of already know not to put flaming pink unicorns with Comic Sans in our designs, I should hope.
Yeah.
So just, we need to just really retool and pivot and think about what is the strategy? What is the content? Really get into the model, understanding what is the data coming in? What is the bias in that data? How to spot that? And also what is the outcome? What is the value of true positive, false positive, true negative, false negative, right? The value matrix. Where's the data coming from? And then what are the different controls that both the customers and the company have around this AI that can tweak it and make it better. We need to get engaged on a much higher level than what we're engaging in. And that's actually what's in the book. Sorry, man. Yeah, this is exactly why I wrote this book is this is a blueprint. It's a framework for designing AI-driven products. That's literally the title. And that is what we put together. And it's not just me. There's 19 co-authors in there, including my wonderful contributing editor, Daria Kempka. So check it out. Jacob Nielsen is in there, Josh Clark, Christopher. So, a bunch of really luminaries, what I would consider in the AI field. So check it out.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. So we'll dive more into that as well, especially the UX of AI. So I had a quick question based on what you just said about, Nielsen Norman's nice metaphor where he said, if you look at Saturn, you'll see the rings. Maybe I want to push back or maybe poke at it or understand it better.
Sure.
But in my experience, you show like a founder or someone who's like passionate about what they've built and you show the feedback they're getting on what they've built. They're like, yeah, but this wasn't the right situation. And this user, he just doesn't get it. So my question to you then is how do you bring that clarity and make sure that that's like actually understood what the feedback
Oliver,
is?
I love that question. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. We should have some drinks and really dig into this. So I'm going to sanitize it a bit for public consumption here.
Well, I was actually about to say when you that you can say whatever you want. It's the internet, so unless it's for yourself, for your own reputation, but for my podcast, you can swear.
Excellent,
you can smoke
excellent. I know.
It's a Joe Rogan.
I'm not quite Joe Rogan or Gary V. Gary V. Not quite there yet, but I'm working up to it. So the thing, this debate is actually very, very interesting. It's been going on for quite some time, right? I know it as the blue ocean, red ocean kind of debate. So a lot of folks that are really enamored with their idea would say, this is blue ocean. People don't really know what it is. That means no sharks
Yeah.
circling, right? No blood in the water. So versus red ocean is kind of a proven thing. And so we need the research for that. So blue ocean, we don't need any research. I would double down and say you actually need more research, and the AI is a perfect example of that. So you actually need more research to really understand it, because again, there are no patterns. We don't know what is right or wrong.
Could you give an example of that where, because, AI is going so quickly,
Man,
some people might think like this is so different from anything else we've experienced. There's nothing to compare. We have to start from blue or from scratch. I'm hearing that you're arguing, no, actually, like, we're building on top of previous understanding. I hate to put you on the spot, but could you maybe come
sure.
with an example of where like a new AI feature pattern is actually fundamentally based on a previous paradigm or mental model?
So one example comes from a customer that I worked with, and I've worked with many startup founders, and I've helped a lot of get funded and then get the product out and so forth. So this particular story is probably going to be familiar. So this particular founder was extremely educated, and he would always say, "Well, I am from Harvard, and so I know better than anyone else how to do this because I have a business MBA from Harvard," right? He would never, but one day would go by when he would not say that. And when he was faced with the same thing, he would say, "Well, these people just are dumb. They don't get it." And I go, "Yeah, maybe they aren't dumb, but they're not quite MBA from Harvard, maybe." And yeah, you've built a product for an MBA from Harvard, not surprisingly. So maybe you're trying to flatter the guy at the same time you're trying to tell him the truth. Like, look, from the perspective of a customer, this is just a little bit too complicated. Not so much that it's bad, but it requires just a lot of attention, a lot of understanding, a lot of that kind of runway that may not have, right? They may not have the bandwidth or the experience or the background necessary to even decide to invest the time to learn. So it needs to be a little bit more walk-up usability friendly. And so, the founder actually basically really struggled for a few months. We had zero sales, and then he was like, "Yeah, I guess you're right. Let's try it." So I think that was the first time. He never said I was wrong, meaning himself, right? He would never admit to being wrong, which is kind of common, right, with a lot of these folks. But at the same time, he admitted that someone else had a point. So that is the best you can do sometimes as a designer. And you almost have to be kind of like Gandalf, right? That's to show you my nerdiness here. If you think like Gandalf, so Gandalf is not fighting the battle, but he's definitely coming in at the right time and trying to say that. But he also, I think, is very frustrated when he's saying, "Hey, they should stand and fight." Instead, they're fleeing to the mountains. And so in this very memorable episode. So you might be very frustrated with the leader, but then Aragon reminds him, he says, "Yeah, he's the leader of his people. He's concerned for his people." So you may not even, as a designer, you may not be aware of everything that is happening in that founder's head. They may be thinking research is complicated, research is expensive. I already have talked to 20 people, and this specific thing I'm trying to do is going to hit that specific VC, and so they're going to fund my project because they really are fans of this specific approach. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is, you may not be aware. So just keep in mind that even as wise as Gandalf is, he's not necessarily aware of all the considerations that are going for this king's mind. So as kind of a just kind of be somewhat humble and have empathy for the leadership, because they're trying to make decisions very, very quickly, and the ground is shifting literally underneath them right now. So just having that little bit of patience, a little bit of consideration, but at the same time, be persistent and keep bringing in and saying, "Look, we talked to sales, we talked to 20 customers along with the sales, and they aren't getting it. And here are some quotes for you." And that always hits really, really strong when you can bring the sales into conversation. There's always kind of this tension between sales and product, and never more than it is now. Honestly, you can't just make AI and say this is cool and let's just sell it because we think it's awesome. People actually have to buy. It has to satisfy a need, which is where that research is really key, connecting to the customer, being in lockstep with them, not just literally saying I need a faster horse, which by the way never actually happened. But that whole silly
The Steve Jobs
conversation.
thing.
But well, I don't know about the Jobs. The the Henry Ford
Henry
one.
Ford, yeah.
Yeah. So we don't actually know what transpired. But the point is we need to interpret as designers. We need to interpret the need, use the mock-ups, use your prototypes, your demos, things that you code that actually run the AI to uncover a deeper need and really try to understand what are you trying to do? What is the use case here? How this is actually going to help them, rather than saying this is cool tech. We have this data, so we should ship this. Well, but at the same time, don't stand in the way of progress necessarily. It's a tough balance to strike, especially with all the changes that our industry is going through. But just
Yeah.
have that
So
empathy for your fellow human beings and leadership in particular. That's my
yeah.
2 cents.
Awesome. So yeah, speaking of the industry changing very quickly, for context, on Monday and Tuesday, I attended the AI startup school conference at Y Combinator here in San Francisco, and they chose like around 2,000 people who are working on cool AI projects. And I walked around with my microphones and I just started interviewing people as much as I could. I'm like, hey, like, who are you and what are you working on? And then I also asked them about, how are they thinking about design? How are they thinking about user experience? And a couple of things stood out to me, and I just wanted to bounce them off of you and
Sure.
see what you think. One of so I'll first say them out loud, and then I'll let you answer to them. But one of them was, we're not really focusing on that right now. It's like, okay, so like, how are you implementing user experience, or what's the role? Like, oh, we're not focusing on that right now. One of them was like working on a health tech startup, and he was like, yeah, we got to make sure like the tech works right first, and that like everything works before we start making it pretty, is what he said. And
Oh
I
my
was like,
God.
okay, I was like,
Lord
I
have
almost
mercy.
walked away. So that's number one.
That's the P word again.
I know. And number two,
Lord mercy.
I actually lost my train of thought because of
Well,
that.
let's address that one
Okay,
while you
let's
think of
address
the
that
other
one.
one. So
Yeah.
yeah, pretty is just really irritating. And yeah, if whatever people tell me to go sit in the corner, play with my crayons, I just I pick up the coding and go and make a working demo instead. So that's basically my response, and really dig into the RAG files and really try to understand how you can help. Now that is kind of part of it. So design is, unfortunately, we've kind of created that ourselves. We've painted ourselves into a corner that design means Figma and design means prettifying things. I speak with I do a lot of workshops around the world, and people always come up to me and go, this is all crazy to me. They tell me, like, everything you're telling me in this book and in this workshop is insane. I never pick up the mouse unless I have full requirements. And to them, I say, well, your days as designers are kind of numbered. Like
Yeah.
machine can do that really well. If somebody can come up with the type of requirements you are talking about, they can just feed it into a machine.
Yeah.
And guess what? The machine is going to have all these components you're playing with already done in React. So the machine will just create the code for the front end. Forget the pictures. It will just code the whole thing with the proper spacing and alignment and everything. And not only that, it will make you 10 versions in 30 seconds. So how much time do you need to make 30 versions, 10 versions, right? You probably need a couple of weeks. So it's astonishing how far the coding aspect has gone. We kind of started with this, Oliver, and I wanted to revisit that because vibe coding is basically coding now. So it's just a different way of coding, right? Like coding has always been an abstraction. Like take any language, Java, Perl, whatever. It's already an abstraction from
Yeah.
the
Even
machine
even
language
punch cards are an
and
abstraction and
the
symbol.
punch cards, right? So it's definitely an abstraction. So this is just yet another level of abstraction, and it just turns out to be a perfect solution for a very simple UI tasks. So if all you're doing is making simple forms, like AI can do this better. If all you're doing is tables, never want to see. That's why I tell people, don't ever show me another mock-up of a table in Figma ever again, because that is just so useless. You should be having a database of data. You should, at the very least, have a working React page with your styles and all of that. And guess how easy that is? You just give it a link to the site that you're working on, and you say, give me a table with these columns, that fake data for blah blah blah, and then you can move the columns around, everything. It will just do that for you. So no more Figmaing freaking tables. That is just insane waste of time. It is number one waste of time. Number two waste of time is simple forms. It will just knock out the form for you. All you need to do is just either shorthand notation that I talk about in the book, or you just kind of describe every element and then we'll just properly put it for you. Not only that, it will actually give you these drop down values that are in there. So the whole thing is actually in React, and it's not just interactive prototype. It is actual real code you can hand off to your developer and have your participants test this real life in the browser, real code, right? Not only that, forget this. Okay, you can have a browser plugin that is not even compiled, just an open plugin that will augment existing pages. It will put buttons in the existing pages in the right places. It will add a table for you and everything. So because it's HTML, right, and has access to that page, and we'll just insert things for you. And these are fully functional elements on the existing page, right? It's not just like a mock-up. It's actually working in the existing page. So your customers may not be able to use it because of all the security and everything else, but you could definitely demo an actual running software is what I'm trying to explain, right? And then all you need is an API key maybe to your LLM, and you're off to the races. It's actually actual real working prototype. So forget that kind of Figma thing. So yeah, we painted ourselves to the corner, and it's time to really, really pivot. But beyond all this tech is what we're actually good at, which is empathy, which is symphony, which is putting everything together, aligning all the elements so things are executing. Again, think Gandalf, right? He isn't actually fighting every battle. Yeah, he can swing a sword and whatnot, but his real value is in seeing a few steps ahead and strategizing and helping coordinate various kings in your organization so that we're all pulling toward the same maximum impact. It's not always going to align, but that is kind of the essence of leading without being a manager. It's leadership, not management. And that is something we have to learn as a matter of urgency. So I said a lot of words. I don't know if any of this resonated and you have more questions, I'm sure.
So I definitely have some questions to build upon what you just said. Well, I mean, first of all, I really, I don't know if respect is the right word, but let me see how to articulate this.
I'll take respect.
Okay. So I respect the directness that you have with other people. If I understood correctly, where you literally tell them, "Hey, your days are numbered if you don't start changing the way you work." And that's something that I'm struggling to talk to other people about, or how to talk to them. So, for example, I gave a workshop at the User Experience Conference in Boston on AI proofing your career. And I basically told people straight up, like, hey, if you're not going to change the way you work, like, you're literally going to be replaced. And it's a tough pill to swallow. And I also am wondering, like, what is the right way to tell people that? Because I think if you attack someone straight on, some people have the reaction of, saying no.
Yeah.
Just like what you had with that founder, where you kind of had to flatter him and, riz him up a little bit, as the youth would say. So I guess that's just like thinking out loud. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think being direct is helpful. I think that that post I had on the Titanic, Figma is the new Titanic, and it's not for the reasons you think, that gone viral on LinkedIn. That was surprising, actually, and there was a lot of work to try to answer every single person out of thousands that have clicked and have requested the guide and everything. And I'm actually very proud of myself that I was able to answer each and every person that has reached out and put a little bit of a personal touch. But we always like, oh, I wish we had a viral post. Finally, you got a viral post, and you're like, holy crap, right? I got like thousands of people to answer in LinkedIn, which is not the easiest platform to use for that volume. So, but the point I'm trying to make is not that I'm great, but that this kind of resonated, this kind of directness, and saying, look, where Figma is a Titanic, not because it's bad, but because the industry has shifted in a fundamental way toward more strategy and more content forward type of, approach. And that's what we're trying to do. 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 And that's what we're trying to UX, where what it looks like is nowhere near as important as what it cooks like. And that is what we have to focus on. And that is a lot more strategic. And a lot of folks are really don't have that muscle or have forgotten that muscle or aren't even talking to customers. They just execute based on a set of requirements, which is really like in the process of going away. And so we need to, if we are going to stay relevant in this new day and age as designers, we need to very, very quickly retool. And I think it resonated, right? It was very direct. It had a nice picture to it. A lot of folks picked up the picture and made their own picture variations of that. And it became a meme, and that, the rest is history. I'm very, very happy about the attention that it got, not from me, but really because I'm passionate about the value of design and how important the design really is in this day and age, and how important it is that we don't just leave AI to data scientists and business people. It is imperative to our survival as species that designers and humanists of all kinds get involved and really, really understand how it works, what it can and cannot do, and get actively involved in bringing balance to the force. So it's really, really important. So I cannot overemphasize this. It's everybody's job to do this. Yeah, there it is. Thank you.
Yeah. So how to become indispensable AI first user-centered process guide for the new normal. And then we have a picture of UX before AI, and then UX after AI, and then the Titanic heading towards there. That's awesome, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
since
also
then
it builds upon what you're saying, that you really like imagery and text, and I think it's a nice way to visualize your feelings.
Thank you. And since then, I've actually have a whole new series of like how to escape the Titanic. So I've been posting every week a little Titanic escaping. It's probably in the other posts. So how to escape the Titanic. Yeah, there we go. So this is the podcast about the Titanic escape, and there's more more and more
Wow,
beyond that.
awesome.
So very, very
Yeah.
happy about that.
So I quickly had another question as well, if you're still down for
Sure.
that. Something that someone mentioned, I think it was the CEO of Microsoft actually at the conference, Natya Satadella. He was mentioning that nowadays, LLMs are so good at coding that at some point it might be possible for them to just completely build a UI and UX like on the spot, on the fly, for whatever use case
Yeah,
possible. So I'm
exactly.
wondering like what your thoughts are on that, and then also how that translates to, because he also mentioned that some YC or some VCs are actually worried about this, in the sense that, okay, well, what's the point of funding this SaaS product or SaaS company if at the end of the day it can all just be instantly generated on the fly? So yeah, I'm just curious to hear what you think
Yeah,
about that, and then
there's
maybe also
actually,
how it ties
yeah,
into that last
love
thing,
it.
how that ties into like the necessity of humans, like where do humans play a role in this? And you mentioned something about, humans have empathy, humans have sympathy, humans have like can actually shake your hand and stuff. So like I'm just curious to hear where you think humans still play a role and how that is, affecting the whole landscape.
Yeah, I love it. I think you're spot on. There is a wonderful perspective in the book by Jacob Nielsen, and he talks about that exactly. He's saying it's much more about orchestrating than it is about designing every single aspect. So it's in the context of accessibility, but it very much applies to everyone. Because, for example, an older person who has trouble seeing small letters can actually request his or her AI agent to say, well, every time you render this, just bump up the text a little bit, bump up the contrast, bump up the size, make the buttons a little bit bigger so I don't have to, that's a preference that he or she can set at a global level, and their assistant can then do this. Very much like somebody who's gluten-free or dairy-free or vegan or whatnot, they can actually specify that preference not to view recipes of a certain kind or to view the recipes only of that kind. It's just an extension of that. It's not anything novel, but at the same time, it is revolutionary because the same page can render different for you and for me. And if somebody is completely sight impaired, they can then get this read out to them. And it's going to omit all these elements automatically that are not pertinent, like all the ads and everything like that, right? It can filter all that out. So it's a very different level of experience, if you will, from what we've been used to, which is the customer's own browser has a lot more control over what is actually being rendered. So it's almost like a next level of that. And as designers, we then we don't worry so much about every pixel perfection of that. That actually went away with responsive design. If anybody's been living under the rock for the past decade, but think of it as an extension of that. Right. It's a browser-based workflow, right? Where you code the HTML and you see exactly how it renders, and then you adjust all the breakpoints yourself. So in the same way, you're doing the same thing with the page like with the whole site rendering. So you're paying attention to what the customer preferences are and what their agent is then talking to your agent and says, yeah, I really would like the font to be bigger. Let me analyze. Yeah, it's big enough. That's good to go. Or no, we need to go and read this thing to this customer. And so it's a lot more personalized. It's not just customized, it's personalized. It's personalization at scale, at the scale we have never seen before. And it's basically here, just not evenly distributed, to use that quote. So yeah, I mean,
Awesome.
just think of it this way. Like, this is what, as Van Gogh said, drawing is the root of everything, and the time spent on it is all actually profit. So think of drawing everything first before you go and feed it into any machine, right? Like that's got to be the key. So start with the drawing, get used to it, because that may be the alpha and the omega of your contribution, is the right drawing to get the ball rolling with an AI that then can render this automatically in code and then serve a specific type of format for a specific customer. But to make that drawing is, you need a lot more legwork. So think of that as being like the ultimate deliverable, if you will.
Yeah. Awesome. Sweet. So we've approached the end. It's now 2:00. Do you have time for one more question
Sure.
about your book? Yeah.
Please. I have to talk about my book.
Yeah. So I guess for anyone that's on the fence about whether or not they should invest in buying one of your books or buying the last one, what would you say are maybe, let's say, top 3 things that someone can get from reading the book? I know you've interviewed a bunch of people for it, and there's a bunch of co-authors. So yeah, what are some insights or things that people can take away?
Well, number one, it's a complete blueprint. It's everything I've learned to do and most importantly not to do from 35 plus AI projects and 20 years at the bench. So it's my book 6, and I hope that one's a charm, right? Some of the practical techniques are storyboarding for AI and how important that is to selecting your use case, which is critical. That's where most things go awry. That's what 85% of that the Gardner's talking about, the 85% that fail. That's really comes from that selection, in my experience, like how to select the right use case, then how to have the discussion with your data scientists. It's a lot of folks are asking me how to do that. Well, we describe step by step how to do that. It's an exercise called digital twin, where you talk about the inputs, what is getting predicted, and the controls. And it's a very, very straightforward exercise, but it's not complicated. It's sophisticated. So it's really going back to the roots of our craft, the way that it really was. It's like the purity of it, but now it's applied to this modern industry. And I think lo-fi is really the way to go, because it removes that barrier in interaction. You can talk about things that you haven't yet created and really be open to possibilities. And then last but not least is I would say the other top 3 things is, so like I said, the use case, the digital twin, data scientist conversation. And then I would say the other one is the vision prototyping. So again, one way to kind of get off this Titanic is through doing vision prototyping. And that means being involved at the highest level of planning what this thing is actually going to look like and putting together the vision for your company. And I describe how to do that and give you some examples of that. And using the book, you can not only preserve your standing and your ability to keep being a designer, but indeed thrive and really use these incredible new medium to craft some amazing experiences that are so much both easier and harder, but in different ways than just working with Figma auto layouts and all the stuff that you may have been used to for the past 10 years. So I hope you get a lot of value. And if you want that free chapter, just again, DM me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to send that along. Other than that, if you need extra coaching or anything like that, reach out. I don't have a lot of bandwidth. I don't take a lot of clients, but it just depends if the timing's right and that what you want to do, and that could help. Reach out. Let's chat.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I know I'm pushing
Take
you here,
care.
but I had one last question,
Sure.
if that's
Yeah.
okay.
Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
I'm, as mentioned, I went to that YC conference Monday and Tuesday. So it's like the top 2,000 like young people working on AI startups and our founders. And we have this really cool community now, like group chats everywhere, Discord channels. And I'm also like making an after movie for the event. And I was wondering, to those young people nowadays, founding companies, getting money and funding and actually going out there and building things, what would you tell them? How should they approach things? And also, why should they take user experience seriously?
Well, I would say again, to bring up you don't have to listen to me at all. Just listen to Forbes and Gartner, who 85% of you are going to fail. And you're going to fail not because the tech is not there, but because you picked the wrong use case, or you didn't consider the bias, or you didn't do enough research and really to really understand where your data is coming from. And in the book, we start out with 5 ways to fuck up your project. And that is exactly where you should start. Really understand how these things go sideways. And the book will help you, and your UX designer will help you avoid those pitfalls. And so you avoid spending money, avoid wasting money, avoid disappointing your investors and the wonderful folks at the Y Combinator familiar with and have had dealings in the past. So it is super valuable. At the same time, don't necessarily wait for all the stars to align. Go ahead and code, but you can always parallelize these. The UX is not about being pretty. It's about being functional. It's exactly what Steve Jobs said. Again, you don't need to listen to me. Listen to your idol, Steve. And it's about what it works like. It's not about what it looks like. It's about what it works like, even though all his stuff looked amazing. Right. Thank you, Johnny Ive. But, that's what UX is really about. And it's about avoiding waste and avoiding spinning your wheels. And it's about increasing your chances of success. If something can increase your batting average, I think that's worth looking into. But again, it's not going to hold you back. It's going to accelerate you. You're going to be able to innovate with confidence. That is the goal of today's UX, is help you kill off unprofitable directions and help you innovate with complete confidence.
Amazing. Awesome. Those are some great sound bites that I think I'll definitely be using. It took me an hour and I finally got Greg to swear on the show. So I think my mission.
Well, it was in the book, right? That's
It's
what
in
it
the
is.
book. It's
Yeah,
in the
we
book.
start with the Boeing 737 Max disasters, and it only goes. Yeah, it only goes there from there. Yeah, see, the very first thing is framing the problem. Part 1, right? That is the way most things go, and I was not kidding. There you
Case
go.
study: how to completely fuck up your AI project. That's amazing.
In 5 easy steps. There we
Yeah.
go.
Awesome. Sweet.
All right, Gary V. Achievement unlocked.
Yes.
Thank you,
Nice.
Oliver. All right.
You're
That's been a
welcome.
pleasure. Really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Anytime you want to have me back and have more questions, I'm game.
Yep.
This was a lot of
Amazing.
fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And yeah, let's definitely meet up sometime. I'd love to walk around San Francisco and get to know the place as well.
Yeah, I know. I definitely know a few watering holes back from my youthful days.
Amazing.
Excellent.
All right. So the thing is, I can't end the recording without kicking you off. So I'm just gonna pretend
Totally
that I've just
understandable.
ended it right now.
Yep.
And yeah, thanks again. Do you have any quick feedback or tips or reflections
No,
on this?
that was awesome. I loved it. I was going to say I wish I was prepared, but I don't think that would have made it any better, or it was already really awesome. I really enjoy it. The only thing I would say is, hey, if any of those folks in the Y Combinator are interested, I'm game to do coaching. If they need somebody, they don't need a full-time person. They just need somebody to kind of come in and evaluate the idea very quickly and get them some very simple, quick research at not a lot of cost, but maybe somebody they can occasionally run ideas by. I mean, that's literally what
I have
I
access
do,
to all of them. Like I'm in a group chat with all of them. So like if you want to send me a piece of text or anything like that with some info, I'm happy
to do that.
I'm happy to help out.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Awesome.
And thank you for helping me promote the book. I really appreciate all the book shout outs and even the Titanic thing. So that was really great. Thanks.
Nice. You're welcome.
Really appreciate it.
I'm also ambitious in that sense. So I'm also because I'm interviewing so many people, I'm actually considering writing down some of these thoughts. And maybe who knows, one day also starting to write my own book or something like that.
I cannot
So,
recommend it enough. It's
yeah.
super fun. As you can see, I can't shut up. So 6 books later,
Yeah.
definitely. If you ever want to do that, just ping me. I'll give you a step-by-step recipe that I use to get there.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready. It's
Amazing.
It's both more work, but it's also much more satisfying than I ever thought it would be. So
Yeah, I'll take
it's
you up
both,
on
really.
that.
All right, man. Talk soon.
All right. Thanks so much,
Cheers,
Greg.
Oliver.
Yes. Bye-bye. All right. Well, that wraps up my talk with Greg. I hope you liked it. If you did, leave a 5-star review and share it with your friends and family. And if you or someone would like to be a host or a guest on the podcast, you can reach out to podcast@userexperience.org. And for more content related to user experience design, you can check out userexperience.org.
Well, that wraps up this episode. I hope you liked it. If you did, please leave a review and share the podcast. I'd love to hear what you thought. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest, send an email to podcast@userexperience.org. And for more resources, make sure to check out userexperience.org.